Hi everyone, this is Dr. Lagos, and today in my last podcast for this course, I'll be talking to you about your final research paper and your upcoming assignment for your outline and list of sources. I'm beginning this podcast with a kind of a glance at our Module 8 where I provide the overview and assignments for the course. And here I want to bring this up because I have changed the podcast, the assignment due for this little podcast, as well as your outline and list of sources. It is now due on Thursday, April 26th. Throughout the semester, you've learned several skills. You've learned how to select a paper topic, how to conduct research, how to determine research usage, structuring your paper, and grammar and citation skills. All of these skills will now be used to write your final paper. But before you actually write your final paper, you have an assignment. In here, writing an outline and list of sources, I have put a link to a sample. Now this sample, as I pop it up, comes from a different course. This comes from a senior seminar, History 197, World History, and the topic that this person was writing on was characterizations of Darwin and his theory of natural selection in the British press during the late 19th century. This paper was 20 to 25 pages in length, not 8 to 10 pages, so please do not think that yours will be as intensive as this example. I gave it to you so you could see how this person approached it and as a guide for your outline and list of sources. So there are 3 components to this assignment. First, you'll be giving me your topic. In what makes it different from this particular example is that I would like you to give the argument, your thesis statement for your paper. You've gone through all the materials, you've written me a bibliographical essay. By this point, you know what you want to argue. So I would like that added to the topic in the first section. Secondly, I would like you to create a formal outline. If you've never put together an outline before, this is kind of a good example, but please go to your Diana Hacker book as she provides a very good example for this. Third, you are to incorporate all of the sources you have read, both up to your bibliographical essay and since your bibliographical essay. Many of you have gotten flagged on your essays and your list of sources as not having enough or not having made proper selections of sources. Please go back to my comments and correct them, as I will be going through them and seeing if you've actually rectified a given situation that I've noted. I would like you to follow the template here, whereby you divide your sources into primary and secondary sources. Each substantive section of your paper must have primary sources. If you find that you have a list of secondary sources and no primary sources, at least take the time, you have a few days, to go find something and begin reading it so you know by the time you submit your final paper that you will have a substantive amount of primary sources added. The only 2 sections which will not have primary and possibly secondary sources are your introduction and conclusion. This student did not provide an introduction, he did provide a conclusion, as you see here. So what do I expect to see in an introduction and a conclusion? The introduction, you might need to bring up a book. If you were, say, one of you is writing on the debate surrounding Martin Burnell's book, Black Athena, yes, you would actually reference the book in the introductory paragraph. So you might have a citation there. For the conclusion, I do not want to see any new materials provided or new evidence to argue your point. This should have been done in the body of your paper. I would like you to say, introduction and what you're going to say, laying out the problem, thesis statement, and then the conclusion can be just like you see here in this example, just the title, conclusion. Going to the body of your paper. Many of you have specific topics that lend themselves to having something called background. If you're doing, say, the Polytechnic Uprising for the Greek military dictatorship, Black Athena, the Nazi invasion of Crete, you might find it useful to have a subsection, the subheading, on background. Please do not provide too much material for this section. It should give the reader, even though I know this information, it should give a general reader a sense or the context in which your paper is placed. So you can talk about the Nazi invasion of Crete and kind of detail what had happened, or Martin Brunell's book. What are the main points of it? So that once you begin the substantive part of your paper, your argument, trying to prove your argument, you don't need to go back and reference anything. Typically, individuals who do not have a background section end up repeating over and over and over the main factors of an event. So I always see the Nazi invasion of Crete repeated paragraph after paragraph, which one, becomes very repetitious, and two, it interrupts the logical flow of your paper. So set aside a background section if you feel it is appropriate and necessary for your specific topic. Don't go beyond 1 page. In addition, I've had many of you come to my office and ask me, how long should an introductory paragraph be? Can it be 1.5 pages? No. The introduction for your paper, since it's 8 to 10 pages, should not go beyond 1 page, whether it is a longer paragraph or 2 shorter ones. Please do not go beyond that. I would strongly encourage you to stick to 1 paragraph and then move on. So you're just laying out your topic, the problem, and your thesis, meaning your position on that given topic. As you go through writing your paper, I want you to think about, and this is the analogy I always use for my classes, is you are an attorney presenting a case in front of a jury. So you want to be very direct, you want to be very precise, and say, this is what I'm arguing, and here's the evidence that I'm using to make my argument. I've got circumstantial evidence, I've got motive, I've got what have you. So you're going to be doing something very similar. If you're going to be arguing about the Nazi invasion of Crete, you're going to be saying, here's what's going on. Here are the bodies of evidence that I'm using to make my argument that the Cretans provided a critical resistance that delayed Hitler's Operation Barbarossa. I'm just making that up. So remember, you want to be very direct and incorporate all your material in the body of your paper. You're going to need primary sources for every single section. The other thing that I want to get to is the actual outline. And I want you to have both primary sources listed and secondary sources for each substantive heading, just like you see here on the template. In addition, I want you to go back and think about the podcast that I gave to you on researching. I told you for primary sources, you might want to use color coding, whether it's a post-it note on a hard copy or an electronic coloring on an electronic document to kind of help you organize your research material into groups, into thematic units. If you've done that, then you will be able to put all of those sources together in the appropriate category, meaning sections of your paper. When you write your outline, please put the color coding that corresponds to the material you have. That way, if you say everything is green, because I'm going to talk about, the German generals for the Nazi invasion of Crete, I just need to go through and find all the materials on the Nazi generals. If I've color coordinated them and say that they're all red, then I go through and find all the red tabs, bring them together, and then I could list them on the outline. Overall, by writing the outline, you're going to spend a lot of time organizing your thoughts and seeing on paper how your paper is going to flow. By the end of the outline, what you submit to me, you will be able then to print it out, keep it by your side, and then basically sit in front of your laptop or a desktop and start writing your paper. The stress level of writing this paper will go down because everything is organized and you know what you're going to be writing. In addition, the outline helps you because if you're looking at it and you've spent, say, 5 pages arguing one specific section, you know that you need to move on to a different section and possibly go back and cut it down, or worst case scenario, really rethink your paper topic. So it really forces you to think out aspects of your paper before you actually sit down to do the writing. So it keeps you on task, it keeps you organized, and it also tells you what you're going to be including in the various sections. So the outline is a very, very important part of the paper writing process, and this is why I had you do it at this point. So going back now to the final paper. be careful that you write a different paper than your bibliographical essay. Your bibliographical essays were all about explaining to me the sources you have. The research paper is about you making an argument. So if you find that you're repeating what you had said in your bibliographical essay, stop and think about it. Are you just being descriptive? If so, then you're just going to have to cut it down a little bit. Remember, you're using all of the sources that you've read to complete your argument. Remember to have plenty of material, especially primary sources, to make your argument. And you'll see the end of this. Finally, you're going to have a bibliography for your final paper. You are not going to have a works cited. So there are going to be many different, archival documents. You'll have books that might not be cited in your paper, but that you have consulted and have influenced your thinking regarding your paper topic. So your bibliography at the very end will be broken down into primary sources and secondary sources. Please consult Hacker to correct any sort of mistakes that you might have made in your bibliographical essays for the works cited. Remember, for footnotes, I had a lot of you who made mistakes. When you list a footnote, it is the first name of the author, then last name, comma, title of the source, etc. Many of you just use the classic bibliographical entry. Overall, I hope that you have gained all of the skills that you've needed to now write a really, really successful research paper. Once you submit the paper to me, I will then ask you to post it in your group. And 2 others, the group members, are going to read your paper. In total, you're going to have 3 different individuals reading your paper and offering you assistance on trying to improve it and other comments to make it as polished as possible. If you like, please contact Vivian Tang. She is also very, very good at helping, improve people's writing. So if you get all the comments back and you're a little bit confused, you can either see me or make an appointment with Vivian Tang. Thank you very much for taking this course. I look forward to seeing your outline and list of sources. And of course, I look forward to seeing the rough draft and a really, really polished final draft. I hope you've enjoyed this course, and thank you very much.